I'm more waiting for the news on Freddie. Like, that's the fact that he hasn't skated since, March 19th, and they've left him home off the road trip for further tests, and they hopefully will maybe have some answers of the course of action tomorrow.
Further tests on what?
I don't know. I don't, like I say, it's hard to talk about it because we have no idea what the problem is.
You're right.
So you're going, okay, further tests on what? No idea. Like, I don't know if it's a groin, hip flexor, back. Has it been confirmed? Is it lower body? I think it's.
I don't
lower
even
body,
know if it really has been confirmed, but you're right.
Right.
That is the news of the day, is the fact that Freddie Andersen is having another test done either today or tomorrow, and then they'll make a determination on whether or not he's going to join them on this trip. But the fact that you're getting more testing done, it may suggest we're talking about something serious here. And generally speaking, when you get multiple tests done, it's one of two frames of mind from the player or from the team.
You go ahead with your two frames, and I might have a different frame to throw in there.
Mine is either, let's say it's the player, thinks he's got something going that's not good, and they can't find it. So it's like, let's go find it. Or it's, you think it's bad, I don't think it's as bad, I want more tests done to prove that it's not so bad.
I was
right,
just
it's one or
say
the other.
The same thing. It's one or the other, where they want to see progress on something that they think is healing properly, or they can't find something and they don't know what the hell they're looking at.
Well,
right.
If you start diving into,
we can't sit here and play doctors, because
but that's my point.
Off, and
people are asking me, like, what do you think? Like, I don't know. To me, it's concerning on a couple different levels. The fact that he hasn't been skating and he's not in sight to be skating anytime soon. Maybe that'll change tomorrow with a better prognosis. I don't know. That's a question mark. But the trade deadline's 12 days away. What if you get bad news and it's like, you know what, we got to shut this guy down for a month? Okay, so let's look at that scenario. You got a guy who's played very well for you in 6 games. It couldn't play Monday because he was sore after Saturday's game. Okay, so there's another scenario if you're a Leafs fan going, okay, and there's already, to me, a template recently in our memory of Colorado in the bubble. You had Grubauer that went down. Francouz was inconsistent, didn't look good, and then he got injured, and then it was Michael Hutchinson. Well, guess what? Michael Hutchinson is in the same scenario. He's the 3 to Grubauer and Francouz. Now it's Freddie, Campbell, and Hutchinson.
I just find it to be bizarro world. And I know you got to cover your ass as a general manager of an NHL hockey team, but to sit back and say, well, Freddie blows his knee out and Campbell back is gone, then I just find it bizarre to think down the line of the third goaltender, to be planning for that for the deadline. I'm just so old school where I'm like, Freddie, get your ass together. Campbell, you get it together as the backup, and you guys are our guys going into the playoffs.
Great. You're right, but easier said than done, though.
I know. I just find it to be such a pessimistic, negative angle to be like, wow, this guy might blow his knee out after a bad performance.
Likely unrealistic. To think you're going to have like great depth at number 3.
Right. How many Freddie Francouz situations are you going to have out there? And
no, I think if we're being honest here, the number one story, and quite frankly the only story that matters, is this goaltending situation. Like I don't care if Wayne Simmons plays on the top line, the third line, the fourth line. I don't care if Dermott gets 12 minutes a night, 16 minutes a night. I believe they have the pedigree of a very good team that can go on a run. 1 through 12, 1 through 6. I think Sheldon Keefe's a good coach. They have to go do it. They have to prove it. Things have to bounce their way. But I like what I've seen from the team consistently throughout the year. The only thing that really matters is goaltending. And I think if we're being realistic, the most likely opportunity here or likely decision that will be made is they're going to roll the dice that at least one of Andersen or Campbell will be 100% for game 1 of the playoffs. But I would think so. I mean, again, I'm all for going out there and acquiring someone. If you know one of them is not, like if Andersen, if you get a test back and it's like this guy's not playing again anytime soon, then I think you have to go out there and find someone else, because you're not talking about a third stringer at that point. You're talking about a backup and potentially a tandem if Campbell can't go every other night. But, on top of the Andersen uncertainty here, starting tonight, they play 16 games in the next 31 nights with 3 back-to-backs.
Well,
you have a ton of hockey coming up here, and you're fighting for positioning. the Freddie Andersen news is very difficult to get a read on, Pierre. Like, the longer this goes, the more pessimistic I become. The fact that he's getting more testing, the fact that he's not even on the ice, he's not going to join them on the trip, and we're under, 10 days away from the trade deadline for Dubas to know the answer as to whether he can rely on Freddie. And if he finds out that maybe he can't, how do you address it? Like, what's out there in terms of the goaltending market between now and the trade deadline if Dubas decides he has to do that?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought this up. I touched on it a bit in insider trading last night, but we don't have a lot of time to expand on that segment. In calling teams around the league, I get zero sense and that the Leafs are calling around and looking at goalies. So that's one step at a time. That's the first thing I was trying to figure out this week. But that doesn't mean that's not going to happen. And I think you kind of touched on it. What I'm being told from talking to a couple of people this week with knowledge of the Freddie Andersen situation is that he came back too early the first time. Campbell was out, if you remember. Andersen came back. He should not have. And that produced a setback in his situation. What's happening now is that he wants to make sure that when he is back, well, we hope he's back, but I'm being told he will be back, that it's like 110%. Like, this is the extra careful route that's happening here with him because he does not want to have another setback. And the person I spoke with said, all signs point towards him when he is back that he'll be back for good. Okay, that's fine. But to your point, until that happens, you still have to ask the question, right? And so I think that's probably what the Leafs are waiting for is, okay, when are we getting him back? And when he comes back, how is he? And if it looks good, then they're fine. Because I don't think the Leafs want to go out and get a goal. I think that if they are confident that Freddie Andersen comes back healthy and that they've got a 7-0 Jack Campbell, that they feel pretty good about their goaltending. Why shouldn't they with those two guys? But they need to feel good about their health collectively. And I don't know that they can ascertain that yet 100%, obviously. So, again, if they get any hesitation on the Andersen situation between now and April 12th, then you got to pick up the phone. And there's not that many options. I mean, it's not like, I get a kick out of some Leaf fans and reading social media, like, go out and get another one. Okay.
Yeah, who is it? That's it, right?
You don't do that in season. Noodles actually helped me for a piece I wrote earlier in the week in The Athletic about how rare in-season goalie trades are for the top guys anyway. Now, we had Leonard last year, and that worked out well for Vegas, but Ryan Miller in 2014 was still a top 5 goalie in the world and went to St. Louis, and it was a disaster. Not his fault. I'm just saying, it's just hard. I think Noodles knows more than me, but sometimes just talking about this out loud, but then seeing how it works in real life, not that easy to go in and plug in a goalie and saying, all right, lead us to the promised land in the middle of a year we don't know anyone.
And you plug in another thing here, too. Frederik Andersen, he hasn't skated, I believe, since March 19th. So let's say he's off for over 2 weeks. He might be working out, staying in shape, eating properly, all of that stuff. That's the maintenance. But coming back, he's not skating once and starting a game. He's going to have to, this is jumping on not just a moving train. This is a very fast-moving train because we are in the best hockey right now. This is the stretch time. This is where systems are already in. Guys are at their, kind of optimal peak of playing well. And, he's got to get his timing up right away and jump on it. There's no guarantee that's going to just happen overnight. You're going to have to run him several games to get him comfortable.
Well, how do you have that conversation, Noodles? Because I think ultimately the MRI is going to factor in, the medical team is going to factor in terms of the information that Dubas is seeking out and Dubas is going to get. But if it comes down to a point where you have to go to Freddie Andersen and ask him legitimately, this is a guy who's a free agent at the end of the year. It's a guy that's very proud and a guy that wants to prove what he can do come playoff time. I don't think Freddie Andersen's going to say, go get someone. So how do you even ask him? What is the point of asking him in a way when you feel like you're probably going to get an answer, give me a few more weeks, I'll be fine, where what if he's not? It's ultimately a game of chicken in a weird way because he's not going to tell you I'm not going to get back to 100% and perform well.
Well, you would hope that there's that trust in that relationship that That if he doesn't think he can go, he would tell you. I would hope.
It's not about not going. It's just, do you think we're talking a team that thinks they can win a cup and fight for, and they need Freddie Andersen. And Freddie Andersen's in a very precarious position. He doesn't have a contract, right? He wants to prove himself down the stretch and in the playoffs. And at some point, you're going to have to ask him, do you think you can get back to 100%? And he's got to give you the answer. Then you have to decipher whether or not you're going to accept it or not, basically.
Yeah. I think there's a chance, if they believe medically he can get to 100%, then it's up to him. That's the trust that they go, hey, we're giving you the time off. We're giving you the medical treatment, everything that's needed. And right now, Jack's playing well, so there's no rush to get back. We're managing the schedule. Now it's up to you. So that becomes the relationship. They know what Freddie Andersen's capable of. This isn't his first year as a Leaf. That's, they know exactly.
Again,
yep,
and again, the tough part in all this is, I think I think people are having two different conversations too. I think people are having the one we just had. Other people, I think, are actually what they're really saying is they don't trust Michael Hutchinson at 3. I don't mind Hutchinson at 3 myself, but he literally had to play in the playoffs for Colorado last year because Grubauer and Francouz were out. So I think there are some Leaf fans and observers who what they're really saying is they're fine with Andersen and Campbell if they're healthy, but because of the health situation, they don't want to see Hutchinson in a playoff game. The 3 has to be upgraded. Okay, and I understand that, but let's just pull a name out of the hat. They go out and trade for Chris Drieger from Florida. Who's a terrific story, terrific year. He's a cheap cap hit.
Yeah.
Well, so because you don't want to lose him on waivers, are you, depending how far out in the deadline, I guess that's the other implication. But so where do you stash him when everyone's healthy? Are you carrying 3 goalies? There's a lot of different things here to think about, is what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
It's not as simple as it sounds. It's doable, but the optimum route, obviously, is to feel comfortable with where Andersen is.